Okay, for today we're doing more real-world problems, and therefore we're going to usually have a use of 0 as a start. Why? Because after 1 day it'll be use of 1. Do you get if we started with a use of 1 and I say after 2 days? It's weird. It's like you're starting on a 1 and you got to add 2 to it, so you're going to end up with actually a 3. So anyway, it works really a lot better if you start with a use of 0 on real-world problems. All right, so this problem that we have here has 20 of something, and it's not growing by 15%. We established that before class. This is way bigger than 15%. What have I got in here? What was this again? You remember? 150% growth. All right, so then, what do you get with u sub 3? So here's me putting it in, and we'll see if you get the same thing I did. I've got it in my calculator already. I'm going to go u, which is right above the 7, sub 3, and the parentheses. Move this over a little bit, hit enter. 312, raise your hand if you got 312. Okay, awesome. Now, you guys just have passed that around. Has it gotten to every group yet? Or are you guys still heading forward? Did it come from in front of you? Okay, awesome. So we're done. So I'd like to hear what you guys thought. I heard one group say 750%. Does anybody, what do you guys think? Think higher or lower? What did you think? 500 or 600% growth? What did you guys think? 500 to 600. What did you guys say? 1,000%? What did you guys say? 750? How about you guys? 600%? Okay. I know you're guessing, and it's hard because exactly where do you measure to, right? I mean, and exactly how high was it in the first place? It really wasn't very high. All right. But I just heard a lot of numbers that kind of were in that neighborhood of 700-ish. I'm going to say 700. Okay, let's say this is 700% growth. But it happened over 3 days. Here's my question. If it started off as half of a centimeter, I'm going to change that to 0.5. Play with this percent right here as a daily percent. What number should go there so that, in my estimation, right now, this is about 7 centimeters tall. It was a half a centimeter tall when they were just dry little seeds. And now I'd say that the growth inside the jar is 7 centimeters. You know, I'm holding my pinky up because the width of your pinky fingernail is really close to 1 centimeter. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's about 7. It's my best guess. Used to be a half a centimeter. Now it's 7 centimeters. If U3 comes out to 7, then you'd have the right percent here. Play with it until you get it right. It's like going backwards. Hint, you're going to want to look at your table and keep playing with the percent until you get it just right. I'm going to pause for a second while you figure out what this really was. Starting at 0.5, ending at 7 after u sub 3, 3 days later. I'm going to pause while you give it a try. So we got one data point here. Somebody says they can get u sub 3 to come out to 7.3 if they use what right there? 1.45. Can anybody get it closer? Ooh, what'd you say?
I said 1.42.
1.427.08. Very nice. Can anybody get it closer? Ooh, over there. 6.99. That is closer. 8 something. And I'm guessing you probably even tried something a little different, got even like couldn't get as close as you were before. What did you get?
I got 1.411.
Oh, cheater. And you, what'd you get? 7.0075. Now, which one's closer? Starting to get ludicrous, right? I'm having a hard time telling which one's closer. I guess this one's off by 75 tenths, hundreds, thousandths. This one's off by 20 thousandths. So actually, this one's closer because it's only off by 21 thousandths. So anyway, they're both extremely close. It's pretty much 1.41. So what did we just figure out? That was real. That was this. That means it's been growing at a rate of what? 142%. That make sense? Now, put that in your formula. We're going to go with 141 is the closer, actually. 141%. And figure out for me, after 7 days, how tall should it be? Okay, so I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to start with 0.5 height. And then I'm going to go to 141 instead of 150 here. And then I'm going to quit out. And then I'm going to go to U sub 7. It should be 236 centimeters high. Holy crap. Do you think that it might be limited by how big a bean plant could be, even? You know what I'm saying? Do you think they might have explosive growth and then they stop? What else does that? How about human beings? Don't you grow a lot at the beginning? And then you kind of stop growing and you reach your full height? See what I'm saying? Do you just keep growing at the same rate as you did as a baby? Of course not. You know the one thing doesn't grow on you? Your eyes. Think about that. Why do babies have such big eyes? Because they have adult-size eyes. In their tiny little baby bodies. You know why Disney always makes their characters have ridiculously big eyes? Because we like babies, because they have big eyes. You're programmed. Okay. All right, so anyway, these beans aren't going to keep growing at that rate, but we could say that they did up till now, and then they're going to slow down. Do you think they'll still grow? Yeah, it's kind of like you when you hit middle school. Some of you guys were actually done growing. And some of you guys have grown, but at a slower rate than you were before. And then you finally finish off. Other people have weird, like Michael Jordan. He graduated high school and then grew 7 more inches. As a basketball player, one of the best of all times. I know it doesn't seem possible, but it's true. It's one of the reasons he could play pro, because he actually wasn't, it was very good, but he wasn't the amazing pro that he ended up becoming until after high school. He grew a lot. All right, so let's see if you understand some of the terminology here. All right, that 1.41, it was something. You and your partner try to figure out what's the name for 1.41, and separately, what's the name for 2.41? There's the common something or other, and then the something something. I'm not telling you, see if you remember the words. 1.41 is the blank blank. What's 2.41? Oh, that's the blankety blank. Pausing? Well, you figure those out. Okay, who feels fairly confident they know what the 1.41 is? Yes. Thank you for trying, but no. You're the one person who's willing to guess at it. Nope, the 2.41, that was the common ratio. Now that I've said that, and you probably feel safer, who wants to take a shot at what the 1.41 was? Yes? Yes, but we usually say it as a percent. And what would 1.41 turn into as a percent growth Please don't say 14. What would it be? 141% growth. So this one has 141% growth and a 2.41, what was that thing called, Ann? CR, which is a common ratio. All right, I'm going to give you another one, except last time I gave you the formula. This time I'm just going to give you some numbers. Let's say that you measure your pet squid, which you keep in your large saltwater tank at home. And your pet squid was 7 centimeters long the first time you measured him. And then the next time you measured him, he's 9.1 centimeters long. And from what you've read about squid, he isn't even close to being done growing. He's going to be a big boy when this is all done. So, assuming this is not like the humans where they grow fast and then they stop growing, assume this were to just keep going. Write and put it into your calculator, the right equation for figuring out how big Squiddy will be the 5th time that you measure him. The 5th term, you might say. Now, you might be conflicted now because I said in the real world problems you should always use u sub 0. But I've asked you for the 5th term. So you better figure out the right way to do this. Hint, u sub 0 or u sub 1, you figure that out. I want the 5th term. And put it in the calculator so you'll know the equation. U sub blah, blah, blah. Pausing for a minute while you try that one. Okay, to put the debate to rest, you should start with a 1 at the beginning. Why? Because I said the 5th term. If you don't start with u sub 1 and you get u sub 5, you're not going to be on the 5th term. So you should have started with u sub 1. And then the growth rate, how am I supposed to know what the growth rate was? You're supposed to find the common ratio, which would be take this divided by this. How many groups knew that you should take 9.1 divided by 7? That was smart. What did you get? 1.3. Is that the growth rate or the common ratio? That's the common ratio. So if you were going to put it into one of these equations, you'd start with u sub 1 is 7, and u sub n equals u sub n minus 1, and this should be 1 plus 0.3. Notice I broke it in 2 parts. Why did I do that? Because I know where you're headed with this. Next chapter, you always are going to have a 1 and a plus or a minus, depending on if it's growth or decay, and then you'll have your rate right there. That's 30% growth that Squiddy has been exhibiting. Okay? And then I asked you for the 5th term. So once we put this in the calculator, I hope you put 1 plus 0.3, and he started at 7 centimeters long. I'm going to use the table this time, but you could have used typing it in. The 5th time, he would have been 19.99, pretty much rounding to 20. Raise your hand if you had that. Awesome. Okay. And then let's get these 2 words straight again. What was his growth rate? 30%. Was it growth or decay? Growth. Was it arithmetic or geometric? Geometric. And last but not least, what is the common ratio? 1.3. Okay. All right. Now, last thing that's on the quiz that I haven't talked about is, what if you don't get your numbers from a list like this? See, I gave you a nice list. What if I give you a chart instead? Well, then you make yourself a nice list. Here's your chart. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the n. This is the u sub n, which is like what comes out when you figure out the first term. And let's count by tens here. That's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40. And I'm going to put dots. There, 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 and there. Does that look like exponential growth? No, because it's a straight line. That looks like what kind of growth? Arithmetic growth, not geometric. Geometric is like what exponential growth is. This is not geometric. It's just going up 10 each time. So if you're thinking, well, how am I supposed to put in an equation for that? My best advice is talk to your partner. I just gave you 4 numbers. If I had given you like 16, 32, 64, ... I would have given you 3 numbers like that. Well, I did even better. I gave you 4 numbers. Figure out what those 4 numbers are. Put them in a chart on your calculator. Oh, undo. And would you please write the equation for this? U sub something is equal to, and then U sub n minus 1. Write the equation for this situation, making sure you're good at the tables and charts. Okay, so we now know that our numbers were actually 10, 20, 30, and 40. So U sub 1 was 10. And then U sub n minus 1. And then what was happening each time was pretty easy once you see a list of numbers. They were going up 10. I just switched it up on you, didn't I? I changed it to not geometric, but what? Arithmetic. And so I hope you caught that. And was anybody smart enough to remember putting n is greater than or equal to 2? I'd ignored it up until this moment. Did anybody think of it? Easy to forget, isn't it? Wouldn't it be easy to forget on a test, too? Am I going to take away all the points for that problem? No, but you'd lost 5%. That kind of sucks. Go from a 90 to a, or like say we're going to have a 95 down to a 90 just because of one thing like that. So try to remember to include a domain. Does the calculator need that? No. If you're doing a calculator, you wouldn't need it. But this is always one bigger than that, and it's saying that this formula only works to figure out the second term. Think about it. The first term has to be given to you, or you can't start the problem. That's what that's saying math-wise. This only works for the second term on. All right. Would you now begin your quiz? Are you ready? I'm going to give this little quiz in class. Those of you that are watching along at home, you do not have to do these problems, but I'm going to pause while I write the problems out, and then we may go over them more at the end of the video. Okay, on the first one, the question is, if I give you this sequence, and you're doing this with your partner, but not the people in front of you or behind you, if I say this is geometric, if it's geometric, what's the common ratio? Don't say it. Talk to your partner. Figure it out. You can use calculators. You can get help from your partner. If that's a geometric sequence, what's the common ratio? Number 2, the same problem, what's the growth rate? And hint, it's different. If you think that the growth rate is the same as common ratio, you have another thing coming. Question 3. If this is my car, I have a Lexus that originally was worth about $60,000 when it was brand new. Okay? And if I use this formula, I want to know what would my car decay rate be and value after 12 years. You'll definitely want to use the calculator for that one. Notice this is me subtracting from 1/7. Couldn't I change that to a decimal? Sure you could. All right. The problem 4 and 5 go together, and they're about one of these charts. Oops. On this one, I want to know the common, not common ratio, sorry, the common difference, that's it. And the equation, and I'll give you this hint, U0 was equal to 15. You should be able to write me the rest of the equation. There's your 5-point quiz. Going to have it scored and put in the grade book in a few minutes. So take this seriously. Write legibly so somebody else could read it. If you have a question, please ask. I'll be glad to explain again any of these because I know I was talking fast and I wrote them all down at once. That was a good question. I wasn't super clear on this. Problem 4 goes with this common difference. Problem 5 goes with what's the equation, and both of them are about this little graph that involves the dots between 15 and 25. Okay, so 4 and 5 are those questions about that graph. Any other questions? Parts you guys disagree about interpreting or? All right, then you work with your partner, try to answer 1 through 5. See if you can ace this thing. Question. So I've been asked, what should we round to for this decimal? To be honest, I wouldn't put a decimal there. I'd put it in exactly the way it is because it's more exact. And you won't have to round. Because if you round in the middle of a problem, you get a quite different answer than a kid who doesn't round. So I'm suggesting that you not round. Now I know the decay rate, that you're going to have to give me, why don't you give me 2 decimal places? Like, I want to know like 4.52%. Figure out what percent it is, because I think you know that a decay rate is a percent, to 2 decimal places. But then put it in just like this on your calculator, and you'll be able to tell me the exact value, not rounded. Because you'd be surprised, it can make like $1,000 a difference on the car, whether you round that or not. Any other questions? All right, I'll pause again. Okay, how many of you are done and you have 5 problems finished? Anybody need more time? Okay, excellent. Then I'm going to have you grade your own because we're short on time. We don't normally grade your own, but every now and then we do. So grading your own, put a fraction out of 5 on the top, and then we'll double it later. Because there's 5 points, and we'll keep it simple. Score out of 5. Number 1, you should have divided, and you would have gotten, and just all about where to round it now, 78.6 divided by 20, and you get 3.93. Raise your hand if you had 3.93. Okay, awesome. And since I didn't say where to round it, I hope you just wrote the whole thing out. Otherwise, 3.9 will be all right. And if you were going to round it, probably round to 4. Okay, now what's the growth rate? Remember how I always said to take the 3.93 or whatever it is and write it as 1 plus something? That'd be 1 plus 2.93. Does that help you see that the growth rate was 293? I just did that wrong. Double checking. 3.93. Nope, that's right. 2.93 is not a percent. This is way more. It's going from 20 to 78. That is 293%. 293%. Now, if you rounded it, then you would have, like, to 3.9, then you would have thought it was 290%. So if you rounded it, this would be just a 0. Okay, the next one. When you put this in the calculator, the decimal for it, basically, what's the decimal for 1/7? Well, if I take 1 divided by 7 on my calculator, I get 0.142857, blah, blah, blah. So that's about 14%. Okay, so that's a decay rate of 14%. I'm rounding a lot. You could round to a decimal that's close to that, like 14.29%. That'd be great. Then the value of the car after 12 years. That goes in here. And I'm going to try to do it quick. If I put this at 0, and I make this 1 minus parentheses 1 divided by 7 parentheses parentheses. That's the smart way. That way I haven't even ever had to round it. And then I started with a $60,000 car. This gives you a chance to ponder a real world situation. The car started at $60,000, but do you get how quickly it went down? After only 4 years, your car's worth about $30,000. That happens in the real world. Your brand new car isn't new after 4 years, and you can't sell it to somebody like it's a new car. So you're going to lose like $30,000 in value. Now, I didn't buy the car new. I bought the car right there, and I bought mine for about $13,000, which is really close to this number. So that's pretty close to right. I bought it as a 10-year-old car for about $13,000. I've held on to it for a couple of years. So I bought it for about $13,000, and now it's worth about $9,500. That's like exactly my car. So if I've really lost $3,500 in value. Everybody who owns a car is losing value. So my question is, do you want to lose $30,000 in value in the first 4 or 5 years? Or do you want to lose like $3,000 or $4,000 in value? Now, some people will say, but you have a lot of repairs. I do have more repairs on a used car. But think of it this way. If I don't have to lose $30,000 in value of the car, I can afford a few $1,000 for this and $1,000 for that quite a few times before it even gets close. Am I saying I would never buy a new car? No, absolutely. If I had the money to buy a new car, I would be kind of nice. But you got to realize what it's costing you. As long as you know that you are spending money when you're letting your car age. I mean, that's just a reality. As long as you know that you're and can afford it, then awesome. New cars are awesome because you get to pick the color and you get to like pick out exactly which one you wanted. There's a lot of advantages. They don't break down. You've got warranties. A lot of really good things. But I just wanted to show you in the real world, the value cars go down at the beginning. They go down a lot. And then when they get older, they still go down, but they don't go down as fast. Anyway, enough about that. What is the actual value? After 12 years, 9436. You should have said 9436. Okay. Next, on problem 4 and 5. The common difference here is it's going up by 5 each time. If I made a list like I suggested before, it started at 15, went to 20, then went to 25. And this was u sub 0. How do you know it was u sub 0? Because it's right above the 0 is where the 15 was. So u sub 0 is the first term. U sub 0 is 15. And then the common difference was 5. I'd accept plus 5. And then the rest of the formula, u sub n minus 1 times, no, not times, sorry, plus 5. That makes sense? Now, what about the domain? I decided to give a half of a point for anybody. Instead of hurting you for forgetting it, I'm going to give you a bonus if you wrote n is greater than or equal to 1. Notice 1 bigger than that, not 2. If you did it wrong, you don't get any bonus. But if you remembered to put it there and you put n greater than or equal to 1, you get plus a half bonus. So if you had nothing wrong and then you got that, you get a half a point bonus. So you got 4.5 out of 5. Sorry, 5.5 out of 5. So then at the end, I'm going to put this in out of 10. But you just need to put in your score out of 5. You don't have to double it for me. I know how to do that. That's easy for me. And then drop this in the Dropbox. I made a Dropbox that is called February 3 in the title, so you can search by title. February 3, quiz. I think I called it homework quiz on February 3. So find that, Dropbox that. And let me say your homework before I answer your question. Your homework for tonight is a worksheet, and you need to do all the problems except you may skip problems 6 through 9. Problems 6, 7, 8, and 9. That cuts out 4 really more challenging questions. Problems 6, 7, 8, and 9 can be skipped. And that's all I have for you for today.